Here's every single book that I read in 2023. And in this video, I'm going to review every single one of them in 5 words or fewer. Before we get into the reviews, let's talk reading stats. And I recently transferred all of my data over to the StoryGraph, so I've got loads more insights to play with. Starting with the fact that I read 86 books in 2023, which is 27 more than I read the previous year. Now, I think to achieve that, I probably turned to much shorter books more frequently, but that did still add up to 22,970 pages, which is nearly 6,000 more than I read the year before. Those were overwhelmingly fiction books. Only 3% of my reading was non-fiction last year, which I think is just a couple of celebrity memoirs. And then 2/3 of my reading was books that were 300 pages or fewer. What's interesting though is that my favourite books of the year, I think half the list were chunksters. So maybe something I need to think about for 2024 is reading fewer but longer books, because I clearly seem to like them. The genres are not really a surprise. It's overwhelmingly literary fiction and some contemporary and historical fiction there too. Not sure why LGBTQIA plus fiction is its own genre. Those could be in any genre, but hey, I read some of them. And then there's a little bit of sci-fi there too at the bottom. This is a view of the moods of the books that I read according to how StoryGraph has tagged them. The top moods are emotional, reflective, dark, sad, and challenging, and those together make up 3/4 of the reading that I did last year. Does make me seem like quite a sad person, but then also not much of a surprise. The longest book I read last year was Paul Murray's The Bee Sting, which was 656 pages, but I did listen to that one on audio, so it's 26 hours and 9 minutes. And then the shortest book I read was Alice at the Fire by Jon Fusser, which was only 74 pages long. This is a map of the pages and books that I read over the course of the year. Not too many surprises here. I think this dip in June is just my post-Women's Prize reading sort of lull. And then we've got a big peak in Booker Prize season. Another chart where you can see the impact of the Booker Prize is the mood graph. So this shows you how light or dark your reading is. I think right at the top of this graph is where light books would be. So I overwhelmingly read quite sad, negative, pessimistic books. But even among that, you can see the impact of the Booker, where in August, the mood drastically dips. I think we can all agree that it was a pretty depressing long list this year. And then finally, my ratings across the year. So my average was 3.72, which feels a little bit high to me. I think I maybe dole out 4-star ratings a little bit too frequently. I know some readers aim to get their average rating to go up, but I think you rarely know when you're going into a book if it's going to be right for you or not. So unless you're quite a hardcore DNFer and you don't include those ratings, I think I would be happy with like an average of a 3.5. That's the end of my reading stats, so let's get on with the reviews. Okay, here's how this is going to work. I'm going to run through month by month and review every single book that I read last year, but I'm only going to review it using the same number of words as the star rating I gave the book. So if a book got 3 stars, I'm going to use 3 words to describe it, and if it got 5 stars, it gets the full 5 words. I did this last year, it was super fun to put together, and if you want to steal the idea, please do feel free. If you do want to hear a little bit more detail than just 5 words about why or why I didn't like some of these books, I've reviewed all of them in my reading wrap-ups, and I'll link to a playlist with them all in the description. Let's start off in January, which seems like a good place to start. And I read 5 books. These were The Overstory by Richard Powers, a magnificently constructed opus about trees, 5 stars. We Had to Remove This Post by Hannah Berovitz, translated by Emma Rolt, incisive but unfinished, 3 stars. The Last White Man by Mohsin Hamid, disappointingly underbaked, 2 stars. Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zorna, food and grief, heartbreaking, 4 stars. And The Sound of Things Falling by Juan Gabriel Vasquez, translated by Anne McLean. It was okay. I don't know what came over me in February, but I read 9 books in that month. Still Life by Sarah Winman was where I started. Enchanting story with wonderful characters, 5 stars. McGlue by Atessa Moshfegh, 2 stars. And yes, I'm counting as a word there. Heartstopper Volume 1 by Alice Oseman, cutesy gay school romance, 4 stars. Eileen by Atessa Moshfegh, enjoyably unhinged, obsessions limits, 4 stars. Heartstopper Volume 2 by Alice Oseman, more cutesy gay romance. And I will say the back and forth between Heartstopper and Atessa Moshfegh was a real ride back in February. Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield, eerie sapphic ocean mystery, 4 stars. Rion Bell by Priya Hine, beautiful synecdoche for Mauritian history, 5 stars. Homesick for Another World by Atessa Moshfegh, hit and miss, 3 stars. And finally, Lark Ascending by Silas House, cute dog, okay, 3 stars. In March, I read another 9 books, and you'll quickly see the influence of the Women's Prize start to kick in here. But the first book I read was The Pachinko Parlour by Elisa Schuart-Dusapin, translated by Anissa Abbas-Higgins. Complex characters straddling identities, 4 stars. Women Talking by Miriam Taves, literally just women talking. 4 stars. The Furrows by Namwali Serpel, discombobulating but ultimately rewarding. 4 stars. I'm a Fan by Sheena Patel, cutting, hilarious, incisive, obsessive, brilliant. 5 stars. Cursed Bread by Sophie McIntosh, incorrectly marketed. 2 stars. Wandering Souls by Cecil Pinn, haunting tale of loss. 4 stars. Children of Paradise by Camilla Gradova, creepy cinema shit happens. 4 stars. Fire Rush by Jacqueline Crooks, lyrical, great ending. 3 stars. And Trespasses by Louise Kennedy, morally complex, deadpan delivery. 4 stars. The Women's Prize train continues into April with 7 books read in this month, starting with The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell, better than Hamnet. 3 stars. Homesick by Jennifer Croft, interesting, lacking depth. 3 stars. Black Butterflies by Priscilla Morris, painful slide into war. 4 stars. Glory by No Violet Bulawayo, Zimbabwean history, interesting perspective. 4 stars. The Bandit Queens by Perini Schroff, delightfully surprising dark caper. 4 stars. This Other Eden by Paul Harding, alright, too poetic. 3 stars. And Pod by Lailene Poole, dolphin sex. 2 stars. In May, I read 6 books, the first of which was Heartstopper Volume 3 by Alice Oseman, Cutesy Gays Visit Paris. 4 stars. Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver, best first-person narration ever? There is a question mark at the end of that, but I think it could be. The End of Night Work by Aidan Cottrell Boyce, fun intergenerational warfare. 3 stars. Mild Vertigo by Mieko Kanai, translated by Polly Barton, world's longest novella. 3 stars. Panenka by Ronan Hessian, earnest, heartfelt, football. 3 stars. And Foster by Claire Keegan, quiet, contemplative, family longing. 4 stars. June was probably my slumpiest reading month. I only read 5 books, but it starts off with an absolute corker. Claire Kilroy's Soldier Sailor, incredible account of early motherhood. 5 stars. Termush by Sven Holm, translated by Sylvia Clayton, Rich People's Apocalypse. 3 stars. In Memoriam by Alice Wynne, realistic war, unrealistic gaze. 4 stars. Jackdaw by Tade Thompson, Man Eats Bacon. 3 stars. And I Am Homeless If This Is Not My Home by Laurie Moore, weird, unsatisfying. 2 stars. In July, I read 6 books. Chain Gang All-Stars by Nane Kwama Adjei-Brenyah, gloriously angry prison critique. 4 stars. August Blue by Deborah Levy, detached doppelganger chasing. 3 stars. When We Cease to Understand the World by Benjamin Labatut, translated by Adrian Nathan West, expertly weaved genius history. 4 stars. Korifa Does Social Mobility by Isabel Weidner, over my head. 3 stars. Penance by Eliza Clark, fun true crime satire. 4 stars. And Small Worlds by Caleb Azuma Nelson, wonderful father-son relationship. 4 stars. I read 8 books in August, helped along by the fact that I went on holidays, had lots of time for reading, plus we got the Booker Prize long list. I started with Mouth to Mouth by Antoine Wilson, nothingy thriller. 2 stars. The Dry Heart by Natalia Ginsberg, translated by Francis Frenet, unrequited love, murder edition. 4 stars. I'm editing and I just realised that I completely left out Old God's Time by Sebastian Barry, but that is Trying to Forget. 3 stars. Crudo by Olivia Lang, Kathy Acker's Modern Musings. 4 stars. Western Lane by Chetna Maru, channeling grief into squash. 4 stars. If I Survive You by Jonathan Escoffery, Sublime Stories, Jamaican Identity. 4 stars. All the Little Bird Hearts by Victoria Lloyd Barlow, dodgy neighbours insert themselves. 4 stars. And Pearl by Sian Hughes, Missing Mothers, Lifelong Echoes. 4 stars. I had to check this because I didn't really believe it, but apparently I read 11 books in September, starting with Prophet Song by Paul Lynch, cinematic, claustrophobic, island under tyranny. 5 stars. Study for Obedience, only vibes, not only fans, only vibes. 2 stars. The House of Doors by Tan Tuan Eng, Malaysian Resistance, Hidden Love. 4 stars. In Ascension by Martin McInnes, smallest life, largest scope. 4 stars. How to Build a Boat by Elaine Feeney, disjointed, disappointing. 2 stars. A Spell of Good Things by Ayobami Adebayo, slow build towards crescendo. 4 stars. Open Throat by Henry Hoke, Mountain Lion Critiques Humans. 4 stars. This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amel El Motar and Max Gladstone. Too Lovey-Dovey. 2 stars. Idol Burning by Rinusami, translated by Asa Yuneda, obsession is weird. 3 stars. And The Swimmers by Julie Otsuka, funny and devastating communities. Moving into the final quarter of the year, in October, I read 5 books. These were The Fraud by Zadie Smith, all right, overcomplicated construction, 3 stars. Dinosaurs by Lydia Millett, gentle, beautiful search for meaning, 5 stars. Blackouts by Justin Torres, remarkable queer history, archaeological, beautiful, 5 stars. Between Dog and Wolf by Christina Gorcheva-Newbery, If Ferrante Were Russian, 4 stars. And The Factory by Hiroko Oyamada, translated by David Boyd, fun ideas, unsatisfying, 3 stars. In November, I read 7 books, starting with Clear by Karis Davis. Excellent story, language and isolation, 5 stars. The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. People treat Britney terribly, 4 stars. Heartstopper Volume 4 by Alice Oseman. Gays handle most serious issues yet, 5 stars. Days at the Morisaki Bookshop by Satoshi Yagasawa, translated by Eric Ozawa. Cozy bookshop story, 3 stars. Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. Human enhancement, powerful, heartbreaking, emotional, 5 stars. Upgrade by Blake Crouch. Human enhancement, okay, 3 stars. Alice at the Fire by Yun Fusser, translated by Damien Searles. Intoxicating history of loss, 4 stars. And in December, the final month of the year, I read 8 books, starting with Cuddy by Benjamin Myers. Beautiful love letter to Durham, 5 stars. Loot by Tanya James. Country hopping historical heist, 4 stars. Rizzio by Denise Mina. Perfectly formed, tense historical thriller, 5 stars. Delphi by Claire Pollard. COVID's messy woman, 3 stars. Wild Houses by Colin Barrett. Impressive Irish caper, sparkling dialogue, 5 stars. 'Twas the Night Shift Before Christmas by Adam Kay. More Adam Kay, 3 stars. The Mouse and His Child by Russell Hoban. Saltburn for kids, 3 stars. And the final book I read all year was God's Children Are Broken Little Things by Orinse Ifekandu. Affecting gay Nigerian stories, 4 stars. So somehow that was my entire year summed up in, I hope, about 10 minutes. I hope you enjoyed that whistle-stop tour of all of the books that I read. If you've read any of them too, I'd love to hear about it down in the comments. If you did like this video, it would be great if you could give it a like, because it helps my channel out enormously. And if you're not subscribed yet and you'd like to see more from me, then hit the subscribe button and you'll get a new video about once a week. But until next time, toodles. Baby,